And here we are at the end of the German movement. One thing I'll say right up front is that the German commander realized that there was indeed a Soviet counterblow in place, of course, here from the last turn. So the German commander used a card to get rid of that. Then we can see, as far as the attacks go, let's see, we've had no movement up here, but these are all going to attack there. Soviet couldn't do any counter blows, so that lot is going to be attacking them. We had the German unit that was over here was brought back on by paying a card for that at Smolensk, and has moved up to here because, near as I can tell, that's a good move, because it means that then if the Soviets attack, they can attack and they can potentially destroy or cause that unit to retreat in the Soviet turn. But the thing is that there's no advance after combat beyond the occupation of the enemy hex in a long winter turn. So, for example, let's imagine this unit here went to here and attacked, destroyed that unit or caused it to retreat. They could move into there, but they can't move into Smolensk, which is the only thing that makes a difference at this stage, trying to get that city back from the Germans. This unit, let's see, this unit was here, has moved into this position. They would have had to have gone there and there, out of zone of control, and to here. The reason they're there is to maintain the supply line up to here, because otherwise there probably still is a danger, depending on what happens in the battles, obviously. But of course, if the Russians can completely surround the forces in Moscow, and that would mean that at the beginning of the Soviet turn, they would be out of supply, and if they can destroy them that way, then they no longer occupy Moscow. That's an interesting thing there, because of course, not sure if Moscow would still count as controlled by the Germans if they were the last ones in there, because I don't think the Soviets can move in there after the German unit would be destroyed from being out of supply. That's like after movement and combat. So anyway, we'll take a look at that later on. So we got these two units here are attacking this poor unit here, this cadre unit in Tula. This unit here is not, I don't think they're participating in the attack. That's right, they don't need to, because the odds here are so high that I'm able, even with all the long winter stuff, I'm able to get better than a 3-2 against them. And they are deploying their Walter Model card, which, the Heinz Guderian card, which is to be played before any Axis attack at 3-2 or better is rolled, and its result is immediately defender retreat. So that will force a defender retreat on them. They can escape, they can move down this way, but that will then mean that this unit will be the one I'll be using, I suppose. Oh no, this unit will be able to. They'd have to participate in the attack, wouldn't they? Yeah, okay. They will then be able to move into here. I don't want them to move in because they'd free up Moscow or break the supply chain, etc. So they would move into there and try to hold it. It's all very iffy. It's all by the skin of their teeth and so forth. Other unit moved down into Voronezh. Not going to bother with any combat here, just occupying Voronezh. Down here, let's see, this unit moved into Kharkov, and I cannot imagine why it has got an attack marker on it, so I think I'll move that off. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but they just moved from Dnepropetrovsk into Kharkov, and that's what I did wrong. Yeah, sorry, excuse me. Let's see, where are we? Is there anything on the other side of those? Yeah, there we go. That's what I meant to put there, was one of these. Here we are. And I've already adjusted the VPs. So now we only need 2 more to get to what we need, although we do have to hold on to it until the end of the Russian turn, of course. Then there is another attack going on down here at Stalino. All right, okay. And of course, this is the first time I've played this. And it does occur to me that I did make one, or I may have made several, but I made a mistake. I'm not sure if I did it in the previous turns, but I certainly did it in the last turn, which was the Soviet fourth turn. And there's nothing to be done about it. We've moved on far too far now to be able to sort of rewind. But what I did was, I'm sure you've spotted it, I kept using the Axis combat results table, even though it was the Soviets that were attacking. Oh dear. And the combat results table are not the same. That was probably the thing that threw me, because in every other single game I've played, there's always been one combat results table. So this is very new and innovative and splendid. But yeah. So that I think, just looking at it overall, it seems that I think generally speaking, if you are attacking, you'd rather be using the Axis. So therefore, the Soviets got a sort of a boost in the last turn by using the Axis combat results table. I don't feel too bad about it, because the Germans seem to be doing quite well. They've got 2 routes to victory open to them at the moment, although it's going to take an awful lot of luck, I think, for them to achieve it. But anyway, that was done, and I've just confessed to the error that I made. Okay. So in this particular case, we can start off up in Leningrad, I think, and because the results there are not going to affect the sort of zone of control that is going to involve other people. So let's go through by the numbers here. No counter blow, as we know. So we've got these 2 units worth 11 are attacking them. So they've got 2 to 1, but they've got fully 4 column shifts, because objective and city and 2 column shifts for the long winter. The specific long winter of turn 5. So 4 column shifts. So 2 to 1 with 4 column shifts. And we are using the right combat results table this time. 2 to 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. We go all the way down to 1 to 3. So they'd have to roll a 6 to be able to take Leningrad. So let's see what they do as we roll up. Fairly decisive die roll here. And they rolled a 3. So that gives us, let's see, counterattack. And the Soviets will decline the option to counterattack. So that means we've basically had the Soviet attack has been successfully beaten off by the plucky defenders of Leningrad. So as far as the 5-turn Barbarossa campaign is concerned, the Germans are not getting Leningrad. Right. Okay. Then we move on to, let's see, combat. I suppose we can do Moscow next, or rather Tula. Yeah, this is a Battle of Tula. That is the only one there, isn't it? Yes. So we'll do Tula. As I said, we've got... let's see, we've got 13 here. Oh, we have to include them. So that's 16 actually attacking all that lot there, attacking them. I don't want to say, oh, I don't really need all that. I could have some of these chaps attack somebody else. No, I'm not interested in doing that. It's too dodgy. So we've got 16 attacking 2, which is 8 to 1, which gets pushed down to 6 to 1. That's the highest you can have. And then we play the Guderian card before the result is rolled, and that gives us an automatic defender retreat. So that means that, let's see, we can take that off there. We've resolved that now. The Soviets are going to have to figure out, let's see, where can they go? They can't go there because it's in enemy zone of control. So their first hex is going to have to be there because they're not allowed to stack at this point of the war. They can't go here, so they can go let's see, one more hex, so they could go to there, or they could go to there. This one feels closer. Might be able to, I don't know what really good that'll do, but there we go. So they've retreated. I'm going to keep this line of supply open, so therefore it'll be the 9th Army that moves into Tula. So then we grab a city control marker, okay, for Tula, and we move this up by 1, okay. And then, well, okay, we've got one more German attack. That's right, one more German attack. So if the Germans can take Stalino, then they have 23 points, which is what they need to win, but they would have to retain that throughout the next turn with potential Soviet attacks. I won't call them counterattacks because that means something very specific in this game. So let's see what happens then. So let's see, we've got down here, I believe we've got 8. Yes, we've got 8 strength points. Attacking this unit, which is 2, and it's in a city, and it's the long winter. So city is 1 column shift. The winter of turn 5 is 2. So 3 column shifts. Let's see, it was 4 to 1. It's 8 to 2. So it's 4 to 1 with 3 column shifts. Let's go over here. All right, so we got 4 to 1, 1, 2, 3 column shifts. So we have, let's say we don't want to get exchange. We've got to have defender retreat. We don't want exchange because although that would wipe out the Soviets, with an exchange, let's see, neither side retreats or advances. Right. So, let's see here. Just 1 second. Yes, I was just checking that when exchange says neither side retreats or advances, that rule does indeed cover the immediate advance into the hex itself that is vacated. That does not happen after an exchange. So they don't want to get an exchange result. I know I'm doing this laboriously. It's like, just roll the die. But yeah, I mean, you know, we're working our way through the rules here, so let's study the game. Okay, so we ended up with a set of odds that I do apologize, a set of odds that I can't remember. So it was 2 to 1 with 3 column shifts. So go back over here again. 2 to 1, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's it. So they have 2. I'm messing this up, aren't I? Hang on. I do apologize. Right, they have 8 to 2, which is 4 to 1, shifted 3 times. 1, 2, 3 becomes 3 to 2. So that's why I said I don't want to go to exchange. So anyway, they have a 1 in 3 chance of getting defender retreat with a 5 or a 6, and they've got 1 card left, but it does not apply in any way to this. So let's see what they get, and they get a 2. Oh dear. So that means conclusively that the Germans have lost the campaign. Yes, they can't possibly win it now, as far as I can see. Let's see, where were we? 1, 2, 3. We've rolled a 2, which is no effect. Okay, so we take that off. Right. And that's where we remain. So they didn't get that. So they needed, just 1 second. Yes, here we are. They needed 1 more victory point and then to hold on to those cities, and they didn't get that 1 more victory point. So talk about close. So therefore, because this is a learning exercise, one could, I mean, if one were, how does that work? Let's see here. I suppose... is there any way that the victory points for the Germans could still go up? I very much doubt it. The Germans can't possibly take any Soviet cities in the Soviet turn. Or well, technically, I suppose they could. Yes, I mean just let's just keep this very simple here. If the Soviet player foolishly said, "Oh, it's my turn. What the hell? I'm going to have them attack them," and let's imagine that went badly, and they got a counterattack result. So that would mean that those units there could then attack them. And as far as I know, in a counterattack, you can advance into the hex that the enemy has vacated if you kick them out of there. So that could mean that they could take Stalino with a counterattack. Now, it would be very foolish, obviously, for the Russian player in that situation to do that. But I'm just saying, technically, it could happen. But I will continue playing and play right through to the end of the Soviet turn, because I want to see how badly the Soviets can maul the very precarious position that the Germans have put themselves in this last ditch attempt to go hell for leather to get their extra points. One thing that occurs to me, of course, is just looking here. These units, let's see, these units could go, that unit could go there. And as far as I can see, if that unit goes there, and I'm thinking about, out of supply, would that put him out of supply and therefore he'd disappear? And then would the Germans still have Voronezh? I've got to look that up. Anyway, so combat-wise, yes, for the Germans, any notion of winning the Barbarossa scenario seemed to be over. Okay, let's carry on. Okay, just out of interest, today is Easter Sunday, 2023. So there you go. Now, we now find ourselves at the end of setting up combat for the Russians in turn 5 of the Barbarossa scenario. So we've done our various admin, we've done our what do they call it, organization phase, that sort of thing. We've retrieved some units from here, we've moved units, and we've also sorted out our combats for this final turn of the Barbarossa scenario. And so, well, what's happened? Well, the first thing we did, or I suppose chronologically, the first thing that was assessed was supply. And we can see here that this Russian unit is indeed out of supply. We've got Germans here, Germans here, Germans here. This unit here has moved since supply was analyzed. So that doesn't affect, this was done first, as it were, and then subsequent to that, this unit has moved to here, this unit has moved to here, and so forth. So he's got a problem. Unless he can reestablish supply, then that means that he would be out of supply and would be a surrendered unit, which is dreadful because it costs you 2 cards to get him back, and also it costs you 1 victory point when the unit surrenders. So there we go. Then we had the Russians drew their cards. They only got 3 cards. I'm using this little chap here to remind me. They only got 3 cards because the Germans control Moscow. This is not the first turn that they've only got 3 cards. And the cards were a bit of a mishmash. They actually used the 3 cards. One of them, if I remember correctly, couldn't be used at all. But they used the 3 cards to bring back units from the destroyed units box. And I actually positioned them so that we could clearly see which ones they are. They're the ones that are at this angle. So these chaps here came on from Gorky. These chaps came from Saratov. And Bryansk front here came from Rostov. And they just positioned themselves to cause trouble, basically, for the German eastward advance. Let's see. Now we've got they've moved up here. These chaps moved slightly as well. We've got these chaps at Voronezh surrounded, but of course that happened after supply was assessed, so they're not marked as out of supply yet. If that situation continued into the next turn, then they would be marked as out of supply, and they'd want to do something immediately to get themselves back into supply. Anyway, I can't remember what I said previously in previous recordings, but I think I had speculated as to whether or not the German forces in Moscow were out of supply, and they are indeed not out of supply because, of course, friendly units negate enemy zones of control for supply purposes. So therefore, that unit there has got a straight line of supply back to Smolensk. Maybe I'm confusing myself there, even if it were needed, because... Oh, no, that is needed. That's right, because you can't say, well, they're in Moscow, they're getting supply from that, because Moscow itself needs to be able to get supply from somewhere to the westward, because they're Axis units, so it's getting supply from that direction there. Right, it's not from Smolensk, it's just from that direction. Right, because all these units negate the presence, the zones of control of those enemy units for the purposes of supply. Right. Yeah, so he was the only one who's out of supply, and everybody else on the campaign map is in supply. Okay, one moment. So then the Russian commander was taking a look at the massive counterattacks that could be launched with 3 shock markers available. And it didn't really amount to very much. Even if shock markers were employed, the odds that were potentially there attacking the German units were not very good at all. And so there's only actually one attack taking place, which seems like a bit of a disappointment that we couldn't have used the 2 other shock markers. But like, for example, here... But no, the problem is that when you look at the odds, even with a shock marker, you've got problems. So, okay. So we've got the attack going on there against the chaps in Moscow. And now, of course, the German commander does have 1 card. So that could be used to buy, as it were, a counter blow. So therefore, that unit there being attacked, as we can see, by 1, 2, 3, 4 units for total strength of 16 there against Moscow, which of course Moscow being an objective has got 2 shifts because it's a city, but it's also an objective. But the Russians have got a shock, so that makes it boil down to 1 shift in the end. So it's 2 to 1 with 1 shift. So the German commander might order up a counter blow. So could, for example, put the counter blow onto here, which wouldn't be very smart because then that unit could do the counter blow against that. They could put a counter blow here, which then that unit, I suppose, could do the counter blow against that. So you'd still have those. Actually, yeah, you would. You'd still have them. But anyway, the German commander has not issued the counterblow order. So, of course, that would tend to cause the Russian player to think, maybe he's got something rather sneaky on his card. I don't know. So, once again, let's take a quick look at the odds. We've got 16 against 7, so that's 2 to 1. We've got 2 shifts to the left because of where they are, but we've got 1 shift to the right because of the shock. So, it's 1 shift to the left. So it's 2 to 1 with 1 shift to the left. And this time we're very careful to use the Soviet combat results table. So it's 2 to 1 with 1 shift to the left. So we're rolling on this section here. And let's see what we get. So that was a 3 to 2 section, wasn't it? Yeah. So we'll roll up the Soviets here and see what we get. And we got a 3. So we had let's see. That's a counter blow. Okay, so now at this point the German commander is making a decision, and so what the German commander decided to do was to play the card he had up his sleeve, which is to say Walter Model, which is to be played after one Soviet attack is rolled to double the defensive strength of one participating supplied German unit. So if we double their strength, they become 14. That means it was a 1-to-1 with one column shift, which gives us a 1-to-2, which if they rolled a 3, gives us a counterattack, which the Germans will decline to use. And that will be the end of that combat, okay? So as we say, the combat is over, and we can now see that the unit here, which is unsupplied, is now in supply because of the presence of this unit here. Again, I'm new to this, but by golly gosh, I hope I understand this by now. Because we've got Gorky over here, nice, lots of fresh supplies there. Yes, marvellous vegetables and chickens and all kinds of things. Well, perhaps not. But anyway, beetroot, I would think. Supply can be 4 hexes. So you've got 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, for example, to the cadre unit here. And then, of course, if you're next door to a unit that is in such a situation, then you're okay, you're supplied. The enemy zone of control doesn't make any difference, because if there's a friendly unit in the hex, then the enemy zone of control is negated for supply purposes. So therefore, that unit is now, because he's there and because Gorky is there, that unit is indeed in supply. So we can do that. Thank you very much. And there we see the situation at the end of turn 5, which is the end of the Barbarossa scenario. And of course, the crucial thing is that jolly old Axis are 1 VP away from their victory. So they missed it by 1. And there was no massive Russian counterattack, couldn't be done. But they've certainly got forces now out there shoring up the line. And so the question now is what to do next. And I would simply say that I'm having so much fun with all this that I'm simply going to continue on. And I don't know if I will actually get through all 28 turns. That would take many, many weeks of solo play, I'm sure. But I don't know, I might do it. So I mean, it's all good. It's all good fun. It's all very interesting. New mechanisms, new techniques, all that sort of thing. I really like the low stacking design. So we've got some stacking of the German units, very little, and no stacking so far of the Soviet units. I like the large components. The production quality of the components is absolutely first class. Well, I mean, you know, here's to it. Well, now here's another thing. This happens when we're learning a game, so still not sure if I'm entirely correct in this particular bit, but we'll see. Thing of it is this, that this sort of event here, let me see, Pearl Harbor, which was, of course, December 1941, it actually, what I assumed that it did was that it took a victory point away from the Axis. It doesn't. On a closer reading of the rules, it doesn't. It gives a victory point to the Soviets. So that if that didn't take the victory point away, and you will remember there was one instance of a Soviet unit that was that surrendered, ended up here. So as we know, that counts as a victory point for the Axis. That would mean that the Axis, instead of having 0 event-based victory points, would have 1 victory point for that. And that would mean that the total victory points would actually be here, which would mean that the Germans had actually won the Barbarossa campaign. Now, it's easy to do that, and of course, there's a knock-on effect from this, because now, of course, we can say, well, hang on a minute, though. If the marker had been there, then surely wouldn't the Soviet commander on the last turn have taken absolutely every opportunity, no matter how desperate, to try to do something for example, what might have happened? Oh, let's be realistic about this. They could have perhaps attacked there, with a shock marker. Maybe there would have been a 1 in 6 chance they would have got a defender retreat or something like that. Possibly they could have attacked differently up here. I don't know. That seems unlikely. But the Soviet commander might have done something different. So that's being a little hard on the Soviets to just suddenly turn around and say, no, actually, they had one more point. So they've won. What I want to do is, because I'm going to continue playing this on anyway into subsequent turns, I'm just going to see what happens, play with the system. I'm going to say that, well, okay, we can argue that the Germans just about won the Barbarossa scenario. Remember, they did have a disadvantage in that, and I'm not going to go back and look at the results again. They did have, of course you can, if you want to rewind your video, I suppose we all can, to see if there were those few turns where the Soviets were having their combats decided on the Axis combat results table over here, which was wrong. They should have been using the Soviet combat results table over here. And I don't know what advantages they may have picked up from that. So in a sense, you've got, I'm sure it's not 50-50, but you've got the Soviets had an unfair advantage there, and the Germans had an unfair advantage in that the Soviet commander didn't know on the end of the fifth, on the fifth turn, that the Germans had reached their victory points, and therefore the Soviets might have conducted themselves somewhat differently. Anyway, so very, very close. Maybe the Germans did win, not sure. But regardless, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to continue playing anyway. But I just thought I'd point that out in case any eagle-eyed viewers had seen that. And as I say, it's a learning experience for me. So I suppose that takes us now merrily on to turn 6 for the German player.